pivotal before we even dive in and say which election we want this to go into, so that way we can plan strategically and to know how many meetings we have to have. So that way, if a survey is to go out, we'll know how to send out that survey, so that way where we can get some kind of feedback to see how to go. What we would like to do is take everyone input, everyone is not. It's gonna balance out somehow, some way. So everything that one person suggests, they probably won't get in another person the same thing. So it'll have to balance out along the way. But I think it'll be helpful to see how we go forward with the charter, even with breaking it down, with getting that education to see when if it's needed, when would we like to have this charter amendment put up for us.
Council Rowland.
Council, yes, the goal is to get a process. But remember what we did. The only thing City Council is doing is facilitating conversations around the Prairie Charter and listening to the amendments and what the citizens have. The goal is to go through the document, to get through it. If no citizen has anything on any of the pages, then there's nothing to do. But our role, our task is, the charter was passed 4 years ago. We've been trying to get this committee together for 2 years. Our task is to bring this before, to have a discussion, to go through it. If there's nothing, then there's nothing. But the easiest thing is to go through page by page. If there's no questions like we just did, we go to page number 2. It's 12 pages. And so I'm saying, you know, the goal is to get through this.
But you won't get input today from the
Right,
city.
we
You
don't have-
only get input from about a less portion of the entire city. So what?
Right, but, so this process, so I guess everyone should, the process, nothing is going to be, the citizens will vote on the document.
Yes, but you have to paint this process, and council members.
Yes, I do.
With how we're gonna get to wherever council would see the end goal. So then the end goal is, if you can't say that if you see nothing wrong here today, then nothing would take place. If nobody in this room see anything wrong today, then nothing's gonna happen, because we don't speak for.
Yeah, so the only thing I'm trying to do, and I asked for Councilman Wallace talked about process, the last time, at the beginning of before I said anything, I said Councilman Wallace will talk about the process. Only thing we're trying to do is to get through 1 or 2 pages, which gets us to section 3 on page 3. We went through page 1. Some of the conversation will come out if we just go through the pages. Remember, this is in the process, citizens have input, people can write in what they want, can give us the information, and then we have dialogue. Everybody will not be able to come to all the meetings. That's why we're trying to have meetings in the morning, night, and on the weekend.
Councilwoman.
I think because a few people made us the charter review or whatever it is committee, then as councilmen, we should have already went through this charter, highlighted some things that we felt like needed to be checked or needed to be changed versus going page by page. We've had this for a long time. We've been talking about it for a long time. So as council, we should know what it is we want to change, what page is on. Let's go to that page. Let's have that discussion. I don't think we have to sit here and flip pages and say what this page is, because we've been doing this for a minute.
So Councilman.
Hold up, Mr. Dio, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Councilmember Williams, thank you for that comment. I do want to say that. We're talking about process. We're here already about 45 minutes into probably an hour meeting. Okay, we haven't had an agenda. I'm just giving you things that are important for process. What would be helpful for the citizens would have been to have had a summary of notes from the last meeting posted on the city's website. What would be helpful is to have a real agenda, because it's clear that there isn't an agenda to follow here. And that structure is important, even for a workshop. That's why you have so many people talking back and forth, right? So we get frustrated. But Councilmember Williams is right on point. and we raised this last week in that hour-and-a-half meeting. If there are issues, bring them to the table. So then you can go and review those sections. But if you are looking at this document now, once again, we've had people raise the fact that we don't have a lawyer here, the city attorney. That's a critical piece. And I'm willing as a taxpayer to spend that money. But it is clear that up on the dais, people don't have the experience or the legal training, because that's two different things. You can have a lot of legislative experience, but not legal. You gotta have it both. And that's why you have your legal counsel here. So, once again, we're 15 minutes from starting the regular meeting, and there is no agenda. I'm disappointed as a citizen, I have to tell you, because I heard Councilmember Jones talk about election. The proper way to talk about election is to say, here's a timeline, okay? Because you have to have things set up properly. Nobody even has a timeline. We don't know if we're gonna get to wanting an election, but the proper way to come to us from your dais is, what is the timeline? Which goes to the process that Councilmember Williams is talking about. We're now into meeting number 2, where we're floundering. I heard 2 years a second ago. We're either, as a city, we are either at the table participating, or you're on the menu.
So can we get into the timeline?
That's fine, but it should be here for us, laid out in front of our eyes, is what I'm trying to say.
But neither one of us could do that because the only time we could communicate is sitting up here on the dais, so we have to draft that together. So that's why previously I just asked for Councilmember Rowland and for us, and the mayor even stated a couple of times, for us to see a direction in which we go, because in the next 15 minutes, we're not gonna be able to even get through 2 pages. So for us to leave here with something done, it's best to at least come up with some agreement with what elections that we work with.
Let me try something, because we just need to get pointed. We're all over the place, and that's because it's an all over the place item. Page 2, section 2, form of government. I've heard there are issues with the form of government, which is the mayor got too much power, so who has an issue with that item? The municipal government provided by this charter shall be known as the mayor-council form of government and shall be described elsewhere in this charter. Who's got a problem with it?
My question would be, what are some other forms of government? I know one form is the city manager. What are some other ones which council has been exposed to?
There's about two main forms of government for the citizens. There is, what we currently have is a mayor, council, and you have a strong mayor and you have a weak mayor. And then the second form is the council manager, a form of government. Currently, right now, in the city with our form, we have a mayor council, strong mayor. That means the mayor is the executive. He's also the chief administrator, so he is, he handles the day-to-day of the city, meaning everything from the police department to public works, and then usually there's a director. And so that's that form of government. If we had a council manager form of government, we'd have a city manager. So you have city council, the mayor, you have a city manager, and the city manager would affect the day-to-day transition of what goes on in the city. So majority of the cities around us have council, have the city manager. Outside of, you have like Hempstead has the same form of government we have. They have the same, similar charters actually. City of Houston has the same type of government, but for the majority of the remaining cities, they have a council, as far as in the numbers, they have a council manager form of government. So if council wanted to look at the document that was emailed to you about home rule cities, there's some statistics in that document, if y'all get some time to look it over, where it gives the breakdown of cities around the state, and how many cities have the council manager form of government, and how many have the council, mayor form of government, which we currently have. So I was just answering, what are the forms of government?
I have a question to ask, and then I have a comment to make. Let me make my comment first. Since there was such disorder and disorganization in our last meeting, and the purpose I thought was to get citizen input and then have discussions on that, I went out and bought a dry erase board and some markers. And the purpose of that was to write down different citizens' comments so that everybody can have an idea of what the citizens wanted to do, because I was thinking that that's what this was all about. My second comment is on the handout that was handed out to us at our last meeting about the city manager form of government. I thought it was important, or I thought it was interesting to note in that document that the city council, and I know it was just an example, but I thought it was interesting that the city council hired the city manager or appointed the city manager, and the city manager reported only to the city council. And that most of the powers that are stipulated in our current city charter were delegated to the city manager, and making the mayor only a figurehead. Prairie View doesn't have that form of government, has had that form of government, and I'm thinking, and maybe we can get some advice from the attorney now that she's here, but she's here for the 6 o'clock meeting, I'm sure, is that the structure of the city government, is that controlled by the city charter? Because you're talking about changing the structure of how the city government functions. That's what you're doing when you're saying you want to change it to a city manager form of government. So that's my question. If that's what you're interested in doing, that may not even be an issue that has to do with the city charter. Thank you.
So,
Got a workshop.
I think we got the problem with the mayor being too strong in the sense that you're not transparent, Mr. Mayor. You know, when I ask for some certain documents, always having to jump through hoops to the attorney, whoever it may be, can't answer my question, you know, and that's not good, you know, when it comes to the citizens needing information about the city such that they can continue and be able to function in the city. So with the mayor being able to just set on information, that ain't good. That's not good for me. You know, I just had a case in point over here trying to put a sprinkler system in for the East Texas Precast. They got a citation. Well, it was 3 weeks before we even got, you know, a permit on that. I didn't understand that.
Well, while we're on that point, I'll be glad to address it because I oversee that. The paperwork wasn't complete. That's why. It took a few weeks.
But someone
Would you
just
submit?
told me.
No, I'm just telling you what happened. You say it's because of the mayor. The mayor didn't even get involved in that process, but you're giving me credit for why it took 3 weeks. I'm just saying, that's just a communication misunderstanding. Councilman, you want to move your next person?
so we're on page 2. And so form of government or powers of the city. Citizens have voiced their concerns on these, on the topics. Council, do we have any questions? Now that we know, again, y'all know what form of government we have, does anybody have any questions or anything, concerns that they want to bring up in reference to section 2, form of government?
I've got one. I think there were about 4 examples that was sent to us on the forms of government. Is there a reason why you only sent 4 examples of city manager form, since you say here today there are 3 different ones? but all 4 of them said city manager.
So there's really 2. The goal was, we already know what form of government we have, which is the current council manager. And so I sent the ones that we didn't know, which was the council manager. So citizens who got the packet, you weren't supposed to get the packet of the other city, you were just supposed to get the agenda. So you did get additional information, which was okay. So again, anybody can provide any examples of any city they want. You can spend your time, your effort, and do the same thing. The reason why you had those examples is because we already know our current form of government, which is council, which is mayor council. The examples that was provided was council manager. And so that was the examples that was provided. And so so we're on page 2, and then we either move from there.
Okay.
I have a question because may I address my question? On page 1, there were 4 people who made comments about that page 1, and you said, well, since we didn't have any changes on page 1, let's go to page 2. But you're supposed to be listening to citizens' input, and you did get comments about things that needed to be changed on page 1, but you never addressed those.
So tell me.
No, don't ask me to tell you.
No,
You're supposed to be up there listening.
I am
and getting-
listening.
So you didn't hear anything anybody
There
said on
wasn't
page.
any change that can be changed to the document. The comment she made was about us following something. So Dr. Brown, please stop.
Stop what?
She
I want,
made a comment
Councilman
about
Rowland.
us.
I'm not gonna stop.
doing-
Because there was, Ms. Webster made a comment, she made a comment, I made a comment, Mr. Anderson made a comment, and you're saying that there's nobody made comments or wanted changes on page 1.
Let me try something. You stop calling her name, and you stop calling his name, because if that's what's aggravating the 2 of you, make your statement
Yeah.
and stop personalizing it, but she's responding to you calling her name,
Mayor,
just like you responded to her calling her
Mayor
name.
Allen, I don't have a problem with Councilman Rowland calling my name.
Well,
The problem that I
I
have
do.
is, he keeps saying this is for citizens' input.
Right.
And when citizens are giving input, he's not acknowledging that.
Well, that's from the
That's
last,
the problem I
from the
have.
last meeting and what you pointed out on page 1, that's correct. It's supposed to be the council receiving information from the folks.
That's not.
Ms. Sevilla,
Okay, just,
that's
I
what y'all said with
understand
the
that,
first one.
that now that
Citizen
there's
input.
a process that, people are going through the charter, page by page. It would have helped tremendously had that been on the agenda, then perhaps people could have read up and had comments. But, aside from that, here's what I would like to suggest. I would really like to suggest, and I don't know how it can be formulated, but there are ways that cities look to amending charters. I am sure that the Texas Municipal League, of which we are a member and pay dues with our tax dollars, I am sure that TML can come down and give a nice public workshop on some of the best ways for a city this size to look at its charter, if necessary, and to make any determinations about amendments. Our charter is not even 10 pages. But in terms of structure, you always go to your home base. That home base is the TML. That's what they exist for. And you're losing it, and you're missing a step, and you're reinventing the wheel at this second meeting without having even looked into how do we as a city properly start to look at our charter to see if there is any need to amend it, okay? So that's one of my biggest suggestions and my takeaways for today is if we're gonna do it, let's do it right. Because this is now the second workshop, folks, that we have given our time to come to, and there is no structure up on the dais. That is improper and unfair. And I go back to my original comment. It is abusive to the citizens of Prairie if you're not organized.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that the meeting be adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.